Hi guys, welcome to another video. Hope you're all keeping well. If some of you have seen my recent post on Facebook, you will know, well, obviously from the thumbnail anyway, you know what I'm about to do with this first video in this series, what I've decided to put on my channel. Now, the series is going to be a total review of every single James Herbert book that I've read. My number one horror writer, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and responsible for my number one book, which is The Rats. But more on this later. Okay then, guys. So so I've always wanted to do this. Cause, as I say, like I absolutely loved you, James Herbert, and I still miss him to this day, like the many millions of other Herbert fans. Alright then, guys. So before I start my review of his debut novel, The Rats, I'd just like to show you this book here. Great biography about him, written by Craig Cabell. Now, this is called James Herbert, The Authorised True Story, 1943 to 2013. So, if you're a James Herbert fan and you haven't got this biography, I highly recommend that you get it. And I'll just read you the blurb at the back anyway, just to give it, even for those of you like who aren't really familiar with Jim and his work, this little synopsis might give it, more of an insight into the great man, and his literary horror masterpieces. James Herbert reigns supreme as Britain's undisputed master of horror before his sad death in March 2013. But his legacy lives on, and in his fully authorised work, Craig Cabell examines the story behind horror writing's most darkly brilliant mind. For almost 40 years, James Herbert was Britain's most popular horror author, with sales of over 50 million copies. 50 million copies, guys. He carved a niche in quality best-selling fiction all of his own. Famous for his Rats trilogy and The Fog, he broke away from the cut-and-thrust populist horror novels of the 1970s and 80s to more thought-provoking works featuring the scientific reasoning behind the manifestations of the ghosts and spirits in which he truly believed. Books such as Others Once and The Secrets of Crickley Hall bear testament to his growth as a writer and his continuing desire to chill his readers. Craig Cabell's exploration into the dark, sinister world of James Herbert is given incredible depth thanks to a series of over a dozen exclusive candid interviews. Drawing striking parallels between Herbert's career and the events of his life, this work sheds light on the personal demons which drove the boy from London's East End to become the preeminent horror writer of his generation. Cabell, a friend and confidant of Herbert's until the very end, shares personal correspondence and reminiscences, including one of Herbert's previously unpublished pieces entitled To Ye All. Now, to complete a portrait of one of the most iconic authors of the 20th century, prepare to be gripped by the utterly absorbing last chapter in the life of the Master of Chills. So there you go, guys. Fantastic biography of the great man, James Herbert. I'll just show you a couple of photographs inside, guys. I'll just show you here of Jim's life. There you go. I won't show you them all, guys. I'll just show you a brief look at them. There he is. He's quite musical as well, Jim. He's on... Know how to play the guitar a bit. Like, I've seen him on This Is Your Life when he'd done his life story. He jams at the end. Sorry, guys. I've still got this bloody cough. He jams at the end with one of his, his guest stars, yeah. Fantastic, yeah. He's with his family. Oh, the greatest British horror writer ever, beyond the shadow of a doubt. There's his wife, Eileen. There you go. Yeah, very young Jim there. Oh, absolutely. I still love his work to this day, and that, just a shame we haven't got any more James Herbert books to look forward to. That's the very first photo I saw of him on the cover, the leaflets of the Spear, which was all dealt with the Nazis and the occult. Here he is doing a book signing. Fantastic, yeah. He really knew how to write a good horror story. Here he's signing copies of his book Sepulchre there. Fantastic. Nice man as well, very nice man. I got a letter from him in 1980 saying like I wanted to be a horror writer. He gave me some good advice, yeah. There he is with Tom Jones. Yeah, with Tom Jones there, guys. The great Welsh singer, Sir Tom Jones. Yeah, fabulous book, this, guy. So if you love James Herbert, I highly recommend it. You get this, and it's a great read. Yeah. All right then, guys. So we're going to do a review number one now. So as I say, this is going to be for his debut novel, The Rats from 1974. Oh, when I first read this, I borrowed it from the library, my local library, in September 1975, and I finished it in one day. I loved it that much. The most horrific book I've ever read in my life. I'll just read the synopsis at the back of this, and I'll talk further about the book, and give you give me thoughts on the story as a whole. What a chiller it is. The author knows how to keep the story moving. I'd certainly second that. London is struck by an invasion. Women, children, old and young, none are safe from the deadly menace. The attacks are swift and sure. Escape is impossible. A state of emergency is declared. Evacuation seems to be the only solution in the face of a growing panic and mounting death toll. War is declared on the public enemy number one, the rats. What a chilling story this is, guys. If you haven't read The Rats, I highly recommend it. Yeah, providing you're not, you're not scared of rats and that, you'd best avoid it and that, because it will gross you out, yeah. Oh, yeah. The ultimate horror book, fantastic, yeah, real in-your-face horror, and as Stephen King once said of Jim, Jim doesn't write, he actually, it grabs you by the lapels and screams into your face and that, and he certainly did it in this, his debut novel, The Rats, guys, yeah. This was a reject. Jim sent this out. I think it was to 6 publishers. 5 rejected it, and the last publisher accepted it. So he was on his way. Then this was his way. This set the ball rolling, guys, for Jim. And he wrote more fantastic horror books. Obviously after that and that, and he became multi-millionaire and that. Books translated into so many languages around the world. Remarkable achievements. From when he used to work in art agencies, an art director, and he thought to himself, one day I'll write a book and that, he done it in his weekends, and I think he'd done some in the evenings as well, and he just wanted to write a book and that, and oh my word, what a story, guys. Okay then, guys, so yes, a little bit more about The Rats in my review now. Yeah, it's basically about this, you've obviously gathered, hundreds and hundreds of rats as big as dogs, mutant rats, overrun London and attack everybody, indiscriminately. They attack adults, they attack kids, they even attack animals, they even attack a zoo. In one of the most chilling scenes in a novel, yeah. They attack a railway, Monday morning, railway, on the railway station, attacking all the passengers in the train and that, oh yeah, just attack after attack after attack. It sparks from this zoologist. He smuggles rats into the country. I think it's from New Guinea, and it breeds with a rat, a British rat, and it creates this mutant strain. And the main rat is very, very sickly. It's like it's got 2 heads, and that's the main. I won't go into too much about the ending because it might spoil it for you if you haven't read the rat. But by God, guys, you've got to have a strong stomach. I tell you, you need a strong stomach to get through this story. It's the ultimate horror novel. It's right up there with The Exorcist, Frankenstein, Dracula, the greats. James Herbert was an absolute legend, and he certainly knew how to write a horror story. Of course, with this being his first novel, it was quite raw and that, because he was basically learning his craft. Obviously, it was his first novel. I don't know how many attempts he'd made before he actually sat down and wrote The Rats right out long. Well, I believe he wrote all his books out in longhand, and I think it was his wife typed them out for him and that, but oh yeah, what a debut novel, guys. It's a real chiller, this, and as I say, there's one particular scene in this which by his own admission, he regretted writing, and that's where they attack a baby, poor little baby, and that they just come scurrying out the cellar and just, oh yeah, it's horrible, guys. They tear the poor baby to pieces. It's one horrific book and that, and there were some chapters in it that did actually make me feel like vomiting. That's how sickly a book this is. I was first told about this book actually in September 1975 by one of my school friends and that, because he was saying about this book he'd seen in the library. There's a book there called The Rats. He said, oh God, he said, you want to get it? He said, oh, it's one horrific read. So I did. I borrowed it, and I read it again, and I read it again, and of course, and in the end, I bought it, and that, So the original cover of The Rats had that part there, that was like just the rats in bold red lettering and that. Obviously, when James became more famous, they started putting his name, more prominently in all his novels and that. But oh, I love that cover. This is my favourite cover, guys. It really is, and that, and yeah, this is a fantastic read, yeah. Great pacing, great hero in the form of Harris. He's a school teacher, and he gets embroiled in all this, invasion of rats and that, the plague of rats. It's attacking everybody in London and that. You really root for him and that. Yeah, Harris is the school teacher. He gets involved, and as I say, involved with everything and that. So oh yeah, it's a great read and that. And as I say, it's The Rats is my number one horror novel. You know, as I say, it's right up there with all the classics and that. You know, I even like this. I love Stephen King, and even his books and that. This stands head and shoulders above it. His classics like Salem's Lot, The Shining, you know, Pet Sematary. The Rats is my number one horror novel, and you know, if you're thinking about being a horror writer yourself and that, and you're looking for some good horror books to sort of like give you some sort of inspiration and that, you know, and I would recommend add the Rats to your lineup of horror novels to study and study and study again. This is an absolute classic. They actually made a movie of it as well, guys. I think it was about 1982, called Deadly Eyes. But Jim himself, in many interviews, he's laughed about it because he said when he went over to the studio, what they'd done, they had they didn't have proper, obviously they didn't have the big rats as big as dogs. What they done, they had dachshunds and they put rat costumes on them and that, you know. So he said that the rats were running around barking and that, you know. Yeah, funny story. He often told that, like in his interviews and that. He's been on Wogan a few times and that, Jim, and he often cited that. You know, yeah, but but getting back to this is a real chiller, guys. It really is. Guaranteed, if you don't like rats, guaranteed to give you nightmares. It really is. You know, it doesn't pull any punches and that. You know, the rats are they just attack people. You know, no mercy and that. And there's one particular another harrowing scene in this, guys, of one of many, where the government become involved, obviously, because it becomes a national what's the name, a priority, you know, trying to stop the rats and that from spreading and that, and devouring hundreds of people in London. The government start getting involved, and there's one particular harrowing scene where they, I think it's one of the head of the health, I'm not too sure because it's a while since I last read it. He puts like poor little puppies as base into where the rats are. It's just horrible to read and that, you know. It's to sort of like drive the rats out so they can sort of like gas them or whatever they're going to do with them and that. But all very, very hard to contain, guys. It just come from nowhere. And there's another harrowing part as well where there's a girl sitting in the cinema, a boyfriend, and she feels something on her face. Oh, she said something's right. This is just one of many, guys. You know, James Herbert was very good at doing these little vignettes and that. You know, doing a chapter about characters and that. You know, down to her characters, and then killing them off in the most grisly ways imaginable. This is where it all started, guys. In this classic, The Rats. Yeah, I say they did in the cinema. She's in the cinema, a boyfriend and that, and she feels something on her leg and that. You know, and a boyfriend. Oh, it's nothing and that. You know, because you know what he's after and that. You know, a bit of hanky panky. But the next minute, all the rats are all in the cinema, and they're just all running all over the cinema, jumping on people and basically tearing them to pieces. Oh yeah, guys, this is the ultimate creature feature novel. This is an absolute masterpiece. It sold millions and millions and still getting reprinted today. First published by New English Library in 1974. The Rats. If you haven't read The Rats, if you love your horror, you know, really, you know, in your face, read The Rats. You know, it's a classic and that. And this was the book that made me a lifelong James Herbert fan. You know, and of course he'd done 2 more sequels. He'd done Lair, which I'm going to review, of course, you know, in a future video, where they moved to Epping Forest. That's another grisly read as well. Not quite as horrific, but still pretty frightening book, pretty gory deaths and that. And then Domain, which was my least favourites, but more on that in me future videos. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give a rating to this book now. Oh, well, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? A full 10 out of 10. Because, as I say, I could sit here all night spouting superlatives about The Rats. I just love the book. It's a horror classic, it really is, you know. And that iconic picture of the giant rats and that, you know, rats as big as dogs. Just imagine that, guys, rats as big as dogs, or hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them swarming all over the streets, you know, the cinema, the zoo, you name it. They attacked in there. Oh, God. A big, and the way Jim describes the rat attacks, you actually feel the pain of the people screaming, fighting for their lives as the rats are tearing to pieces and that, you know, and the people are screaming. Oh, God. I tell you, guys, for a boy of what I must have been about, in 1975, I would be about 14, a 14-year-old schoolboy, and boy, oh, by George, this book, it really impressed me, guys, and that, you know, and I would never, ever part with this book, The Rats. It's an absolute classic, and as I say, Jim, this started Jim on the road to, you know, international stardom, and it's literally all those other masterpieces that followed and that. The Fog, the Lair, the Jonah. Oh, well, you'll see them all, guys, in this series where I'm starting, you know, reviewing every single James Herbert book in chronological order. Yeah. All right, then, guys. So that's me. That finishes my first review. The first James Herbert novel, The Rats. Have you read The Rats? Are you a James Herbert fan? I'd love to read your comments, guys. Leave them down below. I'm in the James Herbert group on Facebook as well. There's a big group of James Herbert fans on Facebook. So if you love James Herbert, I highly recommend you go along and you know, join the Facebook Facebook group, yeah. But yeah, he's just a massive horror, this guy. He had a gift for writing a horror story, what really drew you in. And, you know, you just wanted to know, you know, how it ended and that, you know. And when he writes horror, yeah. I must admit, his earlier books were the ones I most preferred. But I'll say a bit more on that as I go along, you know, with each video, with each book in chronological order. But these were his first novels, guys, who are, as I say, real in-your-face horror. And as I say, yeah, so absolute classic, The Rats. And as I say, I think this is the ultimate horror book. Very raw book, you know. It depicts the East End of London very vividly as well, because James was he was born in the East End of London, very poor and that, you know, and surrounded by rats and that, you know, so that gave him the idea. And also, he said in an interview, he said he had a nightmare one night where he was in his bedroom and he looked out the window and there was thousands of rats staring up at him, their eyes, and next minute, he heard the door get smashed and all the rats were, oh yeah, scurrying up the stairs, ready to eat him. Yeah, they often said that like in that, but yeah, the East End of London, good backdrop for the rats. And not only do the rats, there's another horrifying thing in this, guys. Not only the rat attacks, but also the schoolboy gets bitten and he gets this horrible disease and that, you know, they carry this disease with them and that, you know, like the plague and that. So there's that element as well and that. Oh yeah, it's just a horrific book, guys, from start to finish. It never lets up, you know, and unbridled horror. You know, and gore by the bucket loads. And as I say, with the way Jim describes the rat attacks, you really feel the people's pain, you know, screaming and that as all the rats are doing. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Anyway, guys, I think I've said enough because I don't want to run a risk of frightening anybody who's watching this happens to hate rats, yeah. So I'll leave it there for now. But this, as I say, this is the opener to the series what I've started on my channel, reviewing all of Britain's #1 horror writer, James Herbert, all his books, video by video, and all in chronological order, yeah. Oh, by the way, yeah, before I go, I must say, if you can type in James Herbert, you get quite a few good interviews of him when he's on the Wogan show and that, you know. And it's one good one where he's on Halloween 1988, where he's on the Wogan show with Clive Barker and Terry Wogan on a special Halloween show. I watched that quite a few. They had 2 mediums on as well. It's very good, yeah. It's great, yeah. Clive Barker, James Herbert, and the 2 mediums and that, talking about the afterlife and that, yeah. So I highly recommend you watch that. Okay then, guys, so I hope you enjoyed the first video of my James Herbert review, novel review series. And as I say, like, if you're a James Herbert fan, get in touch with me, leave your comments and that. I could talk about James Herbert till the cows come home. I absolutely love him. And it's very, very sad when he died, and that was a real shock, you know. But this book, guys, what can I say? Well, I think I've said enough, you know. I think you've gathered to my #1 horror novel, The Rats, yeah. Okay then, guys, that's it. I'll be back again with part 2 of this James Herbert series very, very soon. And I will be reviewing his second novel, equally shocking as The Rats. That is The Fog. All right then, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Take care. As usual, if you liked the video, please feel free to share, subscribe, comments. Okay, take care. Bye for now.